Yo, what is good, NFL fans? Welcome back to Touchdown Kingdom, the hub of all the latest NFL news and content, and welcome to our 4th edition of our NFL First Round Mock Draft. This will be the last mock draft we post on this channel before free agency, which kicks off next week. After NFL free agency, we're going to have a really good understanding of where all these teams are going to be going in the NFL draft. It's really hard to predict without seeing free agency. But of course, we love the NFL draft talk, so we're going to continue to post these videos every single week leading up until the NFL draft. So if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and if you enjoy these videos about the NFL draft, make sure you smash that like button so I know to continue these videos. Also, feel free to comment down below any of your thoughts about the mock draft and any picks that you agree or disagree with. With that being said, let's jump right into the video. With the first pick, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Aiden Hutchinson, edge rusher, Michigan. This is a unique draft class. Hutchinson is one of the few players who's almost guaranteed to work out at the next level. And while the Jaguars have plenty of needs to fill on their roster, Hutchinson is by far the safest pick at number 1. With the second pick, we have the Detroit Lions selecting Kyle Hamilton, safety, Notre Dame. Kyle Hamilton can simply do it all. He's listed as a safety, but can play all over the field on defense. He's exceptional both in coverage and stopping the run. It's not often that a safety goes this high in the draft, but Hamilton is clearly so much more than just your typical safety. He's definitely worthy of being the second player to come off the board, as he can arguably be one of the best players in the entire draft class. With the third pick, we have the Houston Texans selecting Ikemekonu, offensive lineman, NC State. The Texans are another team with plenty of holes to fill, but their offensive line might look very different after free agency. They'd be smart to invest in the tackle position. And Ikemekonu has been shooting up draft boards for a while now. He would be a huge difference maker for the Texans offense. With the fourth pick, we have the New York Jets selecting Kayvon Thibodeaux, edge rusher, Oregon. Another edge is off the board, in one of the deepest draft classes that we've seen at this position in a long time. Kayvon Thibodeaux is an absolute monster, and almost as sure as a fire pick as Aiden Hutchinson. The Jets' pass rush was not what fans expected last season, partially because Carl Lawson, their biggest free agent signing, was injured before the season even began. If the Jets paired up KT with the healthy Carl Lawson, they could all of a sudden have one of the nastiest pass rushers in the entire NFL. With the fifth pick, we have the New York Giants selecting Evan Neal, offensive lineman, Alabama. Daniel Jones made a decent leap in 2021, but he is in dire need of better protection from his offensive line. Andrew Thomas has emerged as a viable starter, and pairing him up with Evan Neal on the other side of the line would do wonderful things for the Giants' offensive line. Evan Neal is a dominant offensive lineman that's coming from one of the best programs in the entire country. There are few teams that wouldn't benefit from adding a guy like Neal to their offensive line. With the sixth pick, we have the Carolina Panthers selecting Charles Cross, offensive lineman, Mississippi State. The Panthers are absolutely in desperate need of prioritizing their offensive line this offseason. Sam Darnold might not be the long-term answer for Carolina, but they will go nowhere in 2022 if their quarterback is constantly running for his life. In comes Charles Cross, who is less polished than Ikemekonu or Evan Neal, but has just as much potential at the next level. He's a formidable pass blocker, and his play took a jump in 2021. He would be a day one starter for the Panthers and could add a big time piece to their offensive line. With the seventh pick, we have the New York Giants selecting Sauce Gardner, cornerback, Cincinnati. The Giants already have a talented young secondary, but adding a player like Sauce Gardner to the mix would ensure that this group thrives for years to come. Sauce is known to fly around with the field with extreme agility, and he could be equally effective in both man coverage and zone coverage. This is definitely my favorite cornerback in the entire draft class. With the eighth pick, we have the Atlanta Falcons selecting Derek Stingley Jr., cornerback, LSU. DBU cranks out another top defensive back prospect, and this time it's Derek Stingley Jr. He had an incredible 2019 season, but since then he's been dealing with injuries and an overall drop in his play. But this should not make teams not drafting him early in the draft. If he gets back to his 2019 form, he truly has the potential to be one of the best corners in all of football. And the Falcons have way too many holes on their defense to pass him up, and adding him to the cornerback room with AJ Terrell would be absolutely scary. With the ninth pick, we have the Denver Broncos selecting Trent McDuffie, cornerback, Washington. McDuffie is the third cornerback drafted in a row, and I feel like he's very underrated and one of the most underappreciated cornerbacks in the entire draft class. Adding him to a cornerback room with Patrick Surtain would leave the Broncos as one of the best young cornerback duos in the entire NFL. I feel like this would be a really good pick for the Denver Broncos. With the 10th pick, we have the New York Jets selecting Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Ohio State. Last season, rookie Elijah Moore emerged as a star playmaker for the Jets, but there's still something to be desired from the Jets pass catchers overall. Adding a player like Garrett Wilson to the mix would be super helpful for Zach Wilson and the rest of the Jets offense. Maybe a Wilson-to-Wilson connection will be developed in New York. With the 11th pick, we have the Washington Commanders selecting Malik Willis, cornerback, Liberty. In an uncertain year for the quarterback position, the first signal caller comes off the board outside of the top 10. There's not a clear-cut frontrunner in terms of the quarterback in this draft class just yet, but Malik Willis did impress at the Senior Bowl. He's a dual-threat quarterback that can burn you with his legs just as easy he can do with his arm, which is important in today's NFL. The Commanders would be wise to take a chance on a player like Willis. If they don't address their cornerback need in free agency or the trade market, I feel like this would very well be possible for the Commanders. With the 12th pick, we have the Minnesota Vikings selecting Drake London, wide receiver, USC. Justin Jefferson has already emerged as one of the best league's receivers, and pairing him up with the 6'5" Drake London would be a match made in heaven for Kirk Cousins and the Vikings offense. London would add another layer to an already dynamic Vikings passing attack with Adam Thielen, Drake London, and Justin Jefferson. With the 13th pick, we have the Cleveland Browns selecting Treylon Burks, wide receiver, Arkansas. The Browns had one of the worst passing attacks in football last year, and the wide receiver position absolutely needs to be a priority for them this offseason. They have a playoff caliber roster, and I feel like adding a guy in Treylon Burks will only help them and Baker Mayfield take that next step to make the playoffs this season. With the 14th pick, we have the Baltimore Ravens selecting Kenyon Green, offensive lineman, Texas A&M. The Baltimore Ravens always prioritize the offensive line, and if they can get Green at number 14, I feel like that'll be a really good fit. He would be a big help for the Ravens offensive line that needs to get a little more push in the run game, and his versatility as a player would also allow him to play on interior as well on the outside at the next level. With the 15th pick, we have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher, Florida State. The Eagles are in an incredible position with 3 picks in the first round in this year's draft. There are so many different directions that they can go with these picks, but they certainly need to round out their defensive front. Jermaine Johnson blew people away during the Senior Bowl week, and he's definitely going to be a huge difference maker in the NFL. With the 16th pick, we have the Eagles selecting Nakobe Dean, linebacker, Georgia. After rounding out their defensive line, the Eagles can now look to add another position on defense. Nakobe Dean is a super versatile linebacker who's coming off an epic season at Georgia. He would be a great addition to the Philadelphia Eagles defense. With the 17th pick, we have the LA Chargers selecting Trevor Penning, offensive lineman, Northern Iowa. The Chargers have found their franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert, but now they must invest in keeping him off the ground. Trevor Penning is less polished than other offensive linemen in this draft class, but he's still a great pick as we are getting into the middle of the first round, especially for a team like the Chargers that need to prioritize their offensive line. With the 18th pick, we have the New Orleans Saints selecting Kenny Pickett, quarterback, Pittsburgh. Drew Brees is out, and the Taysom Hill experiment definitely did not work out for the Saints. It's time for them to grab their next franchise quarterback, and maybe Kenny Pickett checks all those boxes. We will see if he's the pick. With the 19th pick, we have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Jameson Williams, wide receiver, Alabama. With their third and final pick in the first round, the Eagles can afford to take more of a chance here. Jameson Williams was one of the top wide receiver prospects in the nation before tearing his ACL in this past year's national championship game. Devontae Smith has already emerged as a star for Philly, but Jalen Reagor's play has left something to be desired. Williams will not be ready to go until somewhere in 2023, but he will be a super smart investment type pick for the Eagles. With the 20th pick, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting Bernard Raymond, offensive lineman, Central Michigan. The Steelers will need to figure out their quarterback situation, but it won't matter who's throwing passes if they're constantly under pressure from opposing pass rushers. Bernard Raymond will need to improve a bit at the next level, but he could still be absolutely dominant at the next level if he's developed properly. I feel like this would be a really good pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, as Raymond's potential is through the roof. With the 21st pick, we have the New England Patriots selecting Chris Olave, wide receiver, Ohio State. The Patriots have been dying for a true number one receiver for seasons now, and Chris Olave could definitely fill this role. He's an extremely crisp route runner and would most likely become Mac Jones' number one option. With the 22nd pick, we have the Las Vegas Raiders selecting Andrew Booth Jr., cornerback, Clemson. The Raiders secondary needs work this offseason, and Andrew Booth is a player that can play all the cross defensive schemes at multiple spots on the field. He certainly fills a need for the Raiders. With the 23rd pick, we have the Arizona Cardinals selecting David Ojabo, edge rusher, Michigan. Chandler Jones is a free agent, and J.J. Watt is in the twilight of his career coming off a massive injury. The Cardinals should definitely think about going edge here, especially in a deep draft class for the edge position. With the 24th pick, we have the Dallas Cowboys selecting Tyler Linderbaum, center, Iowa. Tyler Linderbaum is one of the best offensive linemen in the entire draft class, but doesn't have the same positional versatility as other players in the draft. He's a true center, and he would be an instant difference maker for the Dallas Cowboys front five. Taking Linderbaum means locking up the center position for the next decade plus. With the 25th pick, we have the Buffalo Bills selecting Roger McCreary, cornerback, Auburn. The Bills had the best pass defense in the league last year. On top of losing Tre'Davious White to injury, their roster is in great shape for the future, and they could afford to double down on their best position group and ensure that they remain good for years to come. With the 26th pick, we have the Tennessee Titans selecting Zion Johnson, offensive lineman, Boston College. Zion Johnson is an interior offensive lineman that plays nasty and specializes in the run game, which makes him a perfect match for the run-first Tennessee Titans. With the 27th pick, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting Daxton Hill, safety, Michigan. The vast majority of the Bucs secondary is either entering free agency or entering the final year of their contract. It would be unwise for the Bucs to go a different position here. Their linebacker core and defensive front remains one of the best in the league, but their secondary can quickly get away from them if they're not careful this offseason. With the 28th pick, we have the Green Bay Packers selecting Devontae Wyatt, defensive lineman, Georgia. The Packers can use some help on their defensive front, and Devontae Wyatt would be a great addition. He has phenomenal pass rushing abilities as an interior defensive lineman, which would do wonders for a Packers defense that hasn't been able to generate a consistent pass rush in recent years. With the 29th pick, we have the Miami Dolphins selecting Darian Kinnard, offensive tackle, Kentucky. The Dolphins absolutely need to address their offensive line problems this offseason. Kinnard is a player that improved every year in college and took a bigger role with every year he's played so far. He would be a great solid fit for Miami. With the 30th pick, we have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting George Karlaftis, edge rusher, Purdue. The Chiefs' defense improved throughout the last year, but they need to generate more of a consistent pass rush. Karlaftis would be a huge improvement, and it would be crazy if he actually falls to number 30. This would be a steal for the Kansas City Chiefs if Karlaftis falls this late in the draft. With the 31st pick, we have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Daniel Falele, offensive lineman, Minnesota. Protect Joe Burrow. That should be the only thing on the minds of the Bengals brass, as they're coming off an incredible season. They have the franchise quarterback, but they must invest in keeping him upright. He was sacked more than any other quarterback this year, and they went to the Super Bowl. Can you imagine what Joe Burrow can do with a good offensive line? Get this man some help. With the 32nd pick, we have the Detroit Lions selecting Sam Howell, quarterback, UNC. The Lions can afford to think about their future with their second pick in the first round of the draft. Sam Howell checks all the necessary boxes to be successful at the next level, and in a non-quarterback heavy draft class, the Lions might find themselves a gem with the final pick in the first round. Hope you guys enjoyed our 4th edition of our 2022 first round mock draft. Stay tuned for more NFL content here in Touchdown Kingdom, and make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're new and like the video if you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.